Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Let Me Ask You This podcast. I am your host, E.B. Hepworth, and I'm so thankful that you're here. I start every episode off by saying this, and I just honestly mean it. Like, please don't ever think that I'm just like riffing and any of this isn't genuine. I start off by saying thank you for being here. You could be anywhere in the world, and it's not lost on me that you're listening to this conversation, and it is my greatest prayer that as you're listening, that Jesus just meets with you and speaks to you. And that because of this conversation, you get to enter into a fresh dialogue with him. And this week's episode is with a dear friend, a true hero of mine, local Boise hero, Danika Langley. And this girl, I was thinking about it actually on the drive here, of we share a similar heartbeat for the nations. And her and I are kind of those co-dreamers where, like, if I just want to dream with someone, I call her up and she will always be faithful to just like feed the kingdom dreams. And she oversees River House Global, which is an international organization that has multiple different facets of just serving, just so many beautiful expressions of bringing the gospel. And her and I both have this heart to go. And we've both had this invitation to stay and root ourselves. And we've bonded a lot over the years of just that different level of sting, but obedience with rooting yourself where God has you. And it's beautiful, but it's hard. And I think we don't talk about it enough. And so in this episode, we unpack that and just kingdom dreams and the nuances that come with them and what's the difference between surrender and sacrifice. So without further ado, here is my episode with my dear friend, Danika Langley. But thank you. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me.
How does it feel to be the guest?
It feels amazing.
This is my dear friend, Danika Langley. Danika, will you share a little bit about your story, where you come from, and maybe how you spend your days?
Yeah, totally. We're just jumping right in. I love it.
Jumping right in. We have no shallow end. We just cannonball.
Yeah. I dove in. My hands are up. A little bit about myself. I am from the great state of Idaho.
She's a Eagle local.
I'm an Eagleite. And I'm actually really proud of it.
Born and raised here?
Respectfully. Yeah.
At St. Luke's downtown?
St. Luke's downtown.
Nice.
Yeah. It's so fun. I love Boise so much. And yeah, born and raised here, which the older I'm getting, I'm realizing is like so I'm just like so fortunate to be from here.
So true.
And
how old are you?
Oh, I'm 28.
28. 28.
Super old.
28 years old.
I'm so old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I get to do a ton of things with my days, but right now I lead an organization called River House Global. And we work in Southeast Asia and the Middle East, but my job is like a lot of computer work and Zoom calls and things like that.
Yeah.
So I do love it so much, but I also just live in the North End with friends, and it's like a sweet little season of life where a lot of my friends live in walking distance, and we just like hang out and grab coffee and
you're
play
like
tennis.
Professional aunt, and
I'm
just
an auntie. I have the best family in the whole
world. You have
world.
the best family. What's it like to be from such a beautiful family?
It's the best thing ever. I don't know.
Wait,
it's
you don't
so
go to
great.
counseling weekly?
No, no, I really don't.
I mean, I'm sure you could for other things. But.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love my
you have
family.
Such a
We're
great
so
family.
Close.
Yeah. Gosh, that's amazing. Okay, so River House Global, you, what did you major in? Because you have kind of a funny
I majored.
master's.
My undergrad is in psychology and Christian studies.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was going to go like a totally different route.
That was my major.
Oh, really?
Yeah, psych and family studies.
Yeah.
And then what was your master's?
My master's is a MBA in nonprofit leadership.
Okay. Yeah. And were you just pursuing, is your origin you've always kind of followed Jesus? Has it been like you've loved him all your life and that's
as long as I can remember, I've loved him.
Wow.
I was raised in such a beautiful home that loved Jesus, and more than just like go to church and be good, like really loved Jesus and loved living like Jesus.
And very missional. I
think that's why I have loved him forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very missional. Yeah.
So when was the first time you, like that missions heart exploded?
My dad took our whole family, there's 6 of us, to Kenya when I was 12. And literally since then, I haven't looked back.
So radical to me that the inheritance of that, like if your dad hadn't been obedient with taking your whole family, like 12 years old, people are like, yeah, he's crazy. Are you kidding? They're taking him to Kenya. But had you not done that, that wouldn't have invited you to dream where you are now.
Totally. And what's crazy too is like, that's not how he was raised, my dad. So it's like, it's the Lord.
Right.
It's the work of the Holy Spirit that my dad would be like, I'm going to take my whole family. My mom went and was a champion, but it's like the last thing she wants to do is get on a plane and take her 4 kids and like her 2 little kids to Africa and literally like throw up the entire time and like have migraines. And literally she like got so sick, and she just like has stayed strong through it all. And so even that, like the older I get, I'm like, this wasn't a normal thing for my parents, for our family, even for people that we knew.
No.
Yeah. So it's such a gift.
That's wild to me.
Yeah.
So you're in Kenya, you're 12 years old, and explain to me what happened that like exploded, because like you're one of the most missional people I know. Like in your intro, I was talking about how you and we have that, like, if I just need a dream, I could call you and you would be like, okay, yes, like we'll dream. And then like we bond over the nations, but have this invitation to root ourselves here. And there's that stripping of like, wait, this is so hard because I want to go. You're asking me to stay. And so I want to hear a little bit more of like the Genesis story of like the missional dream.
Yeah. I think like I said, my family's so amazing that I grew up in such a beautiful environment to grow and to dream and to live, that when I went to Kenya and just saw life completely different, it wasn't like the shock that a lot of people talk about. It was like my imagination expanded. Like truly it felt like all of a sudden the world was so much more massive than I thought, which meant God was more massive than I knew. And truly, like, the possibilities were endless. Because I was like, my life doesn't have to look anything like I thought it would. Like, this is the adventure. It was almost like an introduction to an adventure I didn't even know I was on. Yeah. Was like the first time I went. And then to get to like talk about it with my family and remember what we had seen and remember what we learned and how we saw God move. It was like my dreams are always that big from now on. Like, it was amazing. I don't know.
The baseline for you to dream with God was just instantly like elevated.
Yeah, and
like,
12 is young.
I was just going to say, to even
really
have
young.
The emotional capacity to be like, wow, my imagination, like God is bigger than I thought as a 12-year-old is really remarkable. Yeah. And like even you using the language of I got to talk with my family about what I was experiencing. Like, wait, you talked when you were 12? I was over here like texting and like playing Pac-Man or Snake on my phone. Like, so it's just like, there was such a opening of the door of like you said, an invitation to dream. And you are a huge dreamer and you struggle with that sometimes, right? Like,
absolutely.
Why do you think we struggle with dreaming?
It's like decision fatigue, kind of.
Do you think?
Because I have so many dreams and I have so many like, okay, I was thinking about this, about talking to you. When people say like, I want to change the world, or when people say like, of course, we're not going to change the world. And maybe we've talked about this before. I literally get so mad. I'm like, why would you say that? I'm planning on changing the entire world.
Because you're like, it is possible.
It 100% is possible. Yeah. And why would I not aim for that?
Do you think that's a gift of faith, or do you think that's just like the fruit of like a hopeful imagination? What is that?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I want to have faith that's like bigger than I even can understand.
Yeah.
And I also believe that God can do anything he wants. Yeah. And that's what I want. Right. We need the redemption of the whole world back to Jesus.
Right.
So why would I not want to participate in that entire process? I don't want to just 100%. Do like obviously we each have our own little like piece of it.
Right.
That we should do really beautifully.
Well, how do you know what is your piece when God just births 900 dreams? Like I'm sometimes get so burdened because God, I have so many dreams with him. I'm like, I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to do this. And it's like the purity of like, Jesus, I want to do this with you. And like, I feel like you deposited in my spirit. So what am I supposed to do with it? But then also this dream over here, it's hard to see where on earth they would merge. Yeah. Like, what do you do with that? How do you not let your dreams become a burden?
I'm kind of in that moment right now where I like up until literally like 6 months ago, I wanted to be anywhere but the US. I wanted to be going, like speaking with government officials, talking to prime ministers, being in front of multitudes, like, because that to me is like impact. Yeah. And then the Lord literally in his kindness in the last 6 months has been like, I have something so beautiful for you that's going to be nothing like you've had before. And it's like local work. And there's so much about my life that's changing around that right now. And I was thinking about that as I was praying about this morning, like, the way that I know what dream to chase is because the Lord will show me what dream to chase, like in that moment. And I've gotten, probably in my maturity since I'm so old, I've gotten better at being like less ultimatums and more just like right now for this moment, the Lord's calling me to local work here in Boise. And maybe next year I'll be back on a plane every month going internationally. And that will be like the joy of my life.
Yeah.
But I pray to God I don't have to leave this country again this year. And I don't think I've ever said that.
Yeah, that's weird to hear you say.
I don't think I've ever said that before. I just want to be here.
So do you feel like, okay, I love the topic of feeling like, okay, right now you have a peace that's what you're supposed to do and God's opening that door. What about the times when you have a dream and it's like, you're like, I don't actually want to do this, but this is the door. This is a dream I have, not the dream I want to pursue, but that's the dream God's asking. And so like, what, and you don't have that heart change yet where you're like, this is the bigger dream, but this is another dream, small micro dream that he's opening. Like, how do you reconcile that when your feelings like you don't want to necessarily go after a specific dream that is being
well, like for example, a dream of mine would be to be married.
Right.
And
Perfect
I'm not,
example.
and I'm not even like on that path. Frankly.
Just crickets or what?
Yeah. I think people are like, where do you live? What do you do? Like, I don't know. No idea.
Just the mystery of Danika. No one can reach you. Maybe that's the issue.
Literally. Guys, here's my phone number. Ready?
But the next 6 months you'll be here, everyone.
Yeah,
so
everyone. I'll be in Boise. Okay. But like, that's not really interrupting my day to day. Like, that's a dream that's like, yeah, I hold it in my heart. And I really do hope that happens. I want to be a mom.
Yeah.
I want to like raise children that love the Lord.
Yeah.
I want a family, you know. I want to be supported by someone. I want to support someone. I want to like encourage them. But that doesn't mean I like stop just growing and becoming. And like, I've become so much more of who I actually am in the last few years that like every year that goes by that I'm not married, I'm like, thank you, Lord, that I'm becoming more of my true self.
Thank you, God.
Before I get married. And of course that'll continue as I get married.
Yeah.
But like, that's a dream that will always be there until it's like fulfilled. And then I have all these other small dreams and I have vision for myself and I have goals. But I think especially like following the Lord and being discipled by him, you can start to begin to feel that shift of like,
that's beautiful.
There is something changing. There's something that's like, I'm a little bit less comfortable. Things are a little bit harder. Like vision is a little bit blurry. Like these little signs that I think kind of inform me something might be changing. And then it's just up to me to like either wait, act when I feel like he's asking me to do something. It's like listening and obeying. That's just like the two things I can do.
That's the only strategy.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you just kind of provoked a really interesting thought. Do you feel like there's a difference between dreams and goals with God?
Oh, I don't know.
Because, you know, some of the like dialects of faith, they'll be like the word ambition in faith is a cuss word. And
interesting.
And I see what they mean by that.
Yeah.
And goal is like, I don't know, there's like a dialect to that or even like a tone that it's like goals are great.
Yeah.
Goals are totally, you know.
We all have them.
But do you feel like there's a little layer of strife within the word goal versus dream?
Goals, I think, like require an outcome that's like judged by man. From my experience, dreams to me is like such a partnership word because it's likely not my own dream. Like if I have these like dreams that have really stuck with me, they're God ordained. Yeah. They're not.
That's
I could come up with something really cool, but it's going to be materialistic. It's going to be, you know, success driven. These things that like feel great on the earthly side. But with the Lord, these dreams are like, one, they're better than we know.
Yes.
Like,
and they're usually more impossible, right?
Yes. The amount of times that I'm like, of course, I wouldn't have ever guessed. I would have never even known that was going to happen or be possible.
Yes.
Those to me are like, it's not up to me if that like happens or not. The Lord's just inviting me into that space.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and it's hard because like dreaming is such a fun like action verb with God, right? And it's this like the more that you partner, like you said, when you're being discipled by him and you're partnering with him in prayer and he's exposing his heart, it's like it's impossible to get to know Jesus and not start to dream about and like being what he's inviting you into. And the more that you start to like dance with him, there's like so many strategies that he'll deposit into your spirit. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. Maybe I could go, clothe the naked. Maybe I could give my life. But there is always that, Zach and I talk about this all the time, surrender versus disobedience. When God, like when you're like, I feel like I'm supposed to set this down. Is it me setting this down because God's asking me, or is it the enemy is saying, put it down, there's no point? And I will get so in my head sometimes because I'm like, God is the voice of peace, but I am struggling right now because I can't tell if I'm giving up or if I'm surrendering, because they feel so similar. Yeah. Just the smell of flesh just severing.
Wow, that's good.
But like, what do you think about that? What do you think about surrender versus disobedience, and why is it so hard to distinguish?
This culture that we live in the US is just so thirsty for impact and significance. And it's so not the life of Jesus. But I'm like, I've been raised to want to be significant because my parents have made me feel significant. My church family has made,
Totally.
The Lord makes me feel significant. There's purpose, but we want more. We want, instead of saying like, I'm a daughter of God, I have everything that I need.
Yeah.
That is the greatest amount of significance I could ever have. So what else am I searching after? So when I start to get those priorities in line of like, is it building my significance on this side of heaven, or is it building, quote unquote, my impact? It's probably not a pure desire from the Lord, because he can
filter out if it's
hidden for 30 years.
Totally.
He was slow moving.
Yes.
I am like so provoked by that because I am so not slow moving.
Right.
But now I like yearn to be slow moving.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what am I missing by being too fast? And it's these like slight adjustments that I feel like can help me narrow in, like, is this disobedience and surrender? Am I surrendering? It's like, what is like contrary to my human nature is probably what the Lord actually wants me to be doing, which is like
totally
feeding the naked or feeding the hungry, clothing the naked. Dude, good chance the naked are also hungry. But just do it all.
Feed the naked.
Do it, Lord.
Oh, Christian jokes are so dumb. Feed the naked.
I'm wheezing.
Clothe
I'm over here wheezing. Dude, that list is so hard.
funny to me.
It's because we all know it, but it like takes so much work to be like, okay, if you're hungry, you need food. Okay, if you're naked, okay, clothes. Yep. I'm like, why is that so hard?
Oh my gosh. That is so stupidly funny to me. Okay. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Bring me back, Lord.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow, I was wheezing there for a second. Jeez.
I think that's so spot on, because I think I don't know. I think surrender, I would argue almost onto the side of, if you are unwilling to surrender a dream that God gave you, then you have now, idolized the dream, which we see over and over and over in scripture. I see it over and over in the mirror. The second that like God's handed you something, and then all of a sudden, I mean, I'm watching House of David right now, and
I haven't
Saul.
watched it yet.
I'm like, it's so interesting to me, because I'm like, wait, this is such a weird experience when you're cinematographically watching. Some of it is not fully theologically on, according to some people I follow on Instagram. But I've been really fascinated by how I have compassion for Saul while I'm watching this. Wow. But when I read, I'm not reading like, oh gosh, dang, Paul,
totally.
like, you're really losing your mind.
Totally.
But watching it, I'm like, what's happening in my heart? Why am I feeling this way? And you just see how he was God's anointed one over Israel. And then he worshiped his role in the dream more than obviously. Yeah. And I just think how often we all fall into that, just over and over and over. And so I would argue to say, oh, my dad's calling me. He never calls me. I wonder what he could be. I would argue to say that like when God deposits like kingdom dreams into your spirit, it is a daily surrender. Yeah. Like, and if he asks you to walk, I mean, gosh, you and I both have had to walk away from the thing that we thought God was asking us to give our whole lives to. And we're like, what do you do with that? And what you find on the other side of walking away from God dreams typically is like, oh God, you're the dream, beholding you. And in your kindness, there's going to be so many different expressions and needs that I get to serve. But like, I know for me, walking away from my dream was one of the most exposing journeys of my faith.
Yeah. Like, I totally agree.
Yeah.
And the Lord is so good to carry us through that process because, like, yeah, it's exposing, it's vulnerable. You walk away from something that's so good.
Right.
Like, actually, could be so
Impact.
good. Yeah, great impact. But then you realize you're like a shell of yourself, of who you actually were meant to be. And that's just not the kingdom. Like, there's a fullness of us that is needed to, like, even accomplish those dreams with him.
Yeah.
And yeah, then you leave and it's like, oh, shoot, I guess everyone knows now that my identity was completely wrapped up in this organization and what I was doing because I'm, like, depressed, you know? And yeah, but then, like, I would do it 1,000 times over again to know Jesus how I know him now.
100%.
And know that he is the reward. Like, truly. The amount of times I've said that of, like, I don't need a title. I don't ever need to step on a stage again. I don't want to be on someone's phone, like, when they're scrolling. Like, I want to know Jesus. I want people to know Jesus. I want people to be free. And however that looks, and it has brought me back to people's phones. It has brought me back to, like, people hearing my ears. It has people been on stages, bigger stages than I ever thought. But it's means nothing to me in the way that it used to. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
I think your language of impact versus identity, like, that's for me is going to be really stick because, gosh, you're totally right. How that's, like, how the world measures it. And it's like, so it just, the way is narrow, right? And it's a crooked line. Like, that is a blurry line. You're just kind of like, shoot, I don't understand. I really am clothing the naked. But when you can do something God's asking you to do and feel more valuable rather than just sit and, like, learn how to receive, like, there's something wrong there, right? There's, of course, you're going to feel good when you're helping and serving and all that, but there's something to say about the spiritual maturity of being able to do absolutely nothing of significance and still be able to be like, you literally love me.
Yeah.
Like, and, you know, we always hear the scripture, like, no height, no depth, like, nothing will separate me from your love. And I always read, like, that. It's like, oh, it's for the addict, or it's for this extreme. Oh, there's nothing. God loves you. But then when I really apply that to me and, like, paint it on my spirit of, like, wait, there's literally nothing I could do that would increase his love for me.
Yeah.
Wait, then what am I doing?
Like, what am I trying to earn then?
Who am I proving?
Yeah.
Other than like, oh my gosh, I'm just on a treadmill. I'm exhausted.
Literally. That's been my prayer the last, like, probably almost 6 months is, like, I don't think I know the love of God.
Yeah.
Because my whole life would be from that place if I actually knew it. And yet I'm, like, have lived, like, what, 15, 16 years from when I, like, kind of first started knowing about missions in the world and all that to, like, having a career in it. Like, what am I trying to prove and to who and for what? Like, and frankly, that was the, like, root of what I was doing.
Oh, and I think it's also the root of insecurity. Like, when I'm having a hard day and I'm like, wow, I hate what I'm writing, or all of a sudden it's like, well, who are you trying to prove?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you write one more word. God loves you literally the same.
Yeah.
And it's like that, it just takes the pressure.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I can sit up a little straighter. I can breathe a little lighter. Like, it's just like, it's so liberating.
So good.
What about, I didn't send this to you, but what about, like, we just talked about these, you have these kind of main God dreams, God deposits into you, and then you have these other peripheral dreams that are constant and significant and good. Like, that sometimes that's a hard part of dreams is they're just good. It's not like I'm asking for much. I just love a partner to like raise beautiful family with. Like, how do you, like, is that fair language to call that type of dream a peripheral where you're like, this is a constant thing? I'm doing all these other dreams too. How do you, like, day by day surrender that to the Lord?
I think, have you watched the latest season of The Chosen? Like,
No.
The one in the theater?
No.
This is probably a very common thing. I just totally don't know the name of it, but my dad would be so sad at me right now. It's called, like, Danyahu or something like that. And basically it's this, like, they said it over and over during the Last Supper. And it's like, if you would have, like, rescued us from Egypt, but you wouldn't have, like, split the Red Sea, it would have been enough. Like, it's this like continuous storytelling of if you would have done this, but you wouldn't have done that, it still would have been enough.
Wow.
Like over and over. And it's this reflection of you did this for me, but you also did this, and it still always would have been enough. And that posture of heart for me has been really helpful lately in like thinking, if the Lord wouldn't have captured my heart when I was like an actual child, but allowed me to walk out in discipleship with Jesus Christ the rest of my life, it would have been enough.
Yes.
I would have known him.
Yes.
But now every day I get to know him.
Yeah.
Like if he wouldn't have allowed me to travel to Kenya 10 times in my childhood, but like now I am going to be in the US for a year straight, like it would have been it's just like constant, like you've done enough for me and you're doing more.
Yeah.
To me, like to bring it back to dreams, it's like the dream is him.
Right.
That is my life's dream, is nearness to him.
Yeah.
And to know him more. And every other thing, it's already been enough.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like if I get married, that is the icing on the cake. And then my husband's going to be freaking awesome. Like I'm already pretty confident in that.
Yeah.
And then I know I'm going to discover things about him that I'm gonna be like, what? Like, God, how?
100%.
Like, how did you know that I 100%. Wanted that? And then like things are going to happen in the next year of my life. And like this new thing I'm starting that's like, what? I didn't even know this dream wasn't here.
That's the surprise and adventure of life with Jesus. Is that like every corner you're like, you didn't have to.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, gosh, that's so, and it like shifts your whole posture from just kind of like, oh, which dream, and anxiety kind of driven almost, to just this gratitude of like, thank you, Lord. Like last night in the book I'm reading, it's, I was like, oh, I'm never going to forget this sentence. Oh, it was, she talks about how basically the first sin of Satan was the sin of ingratitude, and I never thought of it that way, of just how it's like almost it's a sin to not be grateful. Like that the first sin was thinking you weren't grateful for what you had, so you had to go get the one thing that you couldn't have. Wow. And like, I just think that is like, oh my gosh, having this posture and this companion of gratitude in this life, especially as we approach these beautiful dreams that God trusts us with, is like, it's such a game changer for the fruit that's going to flow from these dreams. Absolutely. Like there's such a purity that flows when it's really driven from a heart of gratitude. You know?
That's funny you said that, because this morning when I was praying, like the first thing that came to mind was, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. And that like sentence alone, I think I could try to unpack the rest of my life.
I know.
And it sounds so Christianese because it's Psalms 23,
totally.
But like, it's really good. There's a reason why it's popular.
So good. You're always my best friend.
Yeah, it's like literally so good.
Every version, like, I'm like, it's so good.
I know, and you get like something different from each line.
I read that this morning, and in one of the versions, it was, I actually took a picture of it because I was like, this is so beautiful.
I love that.
True to your word, you let me catch my breath.
Whoa.
From Psalm 23.
Oh my gosh.
In the Message. I was like, oh
That's
my gosh.
So good.
And it's like, even apply that for the sake of the conversation to dreams. I think sometimes in the faith circle, you'll be doing a God dream, and then all of a sudden you'll have a moment of anxiety, and you're like, I actually like can't breathe because this is so stressful. I have people on the other side of the world depending on me for this and this and this and this, and I have to wake up at this hour for me. And there's just a natural, visceral stress factor to doing God dreams. Yeah. And some people will be like, oh, the peace of God. Nope, I'm supposed to lay it down. Nope. And there's a premature, like ending to a God dream, all because you can't handle. And so even that, being able to, and that's my thing lately, is I'm like, God, I want to pray scripture over me. Because right now I don't know if I have the language. Yeah. Being like, true to your word, you let me catch my breath. In every God dream you give me, you are going to lead me to still waters. Yeah. You're going to provide one good thing you'll lack, like keep me from. And it's just like,
that's so good.
Yeah, it really is.
I was listening to a podcast by the Perrys, like Jackie Hope Perry and Preston, and it was a while ago because I think they're on a hiatus right now, but they were recalling their last year of ministry. And I think Jackie was like, do you feel like we did too much? And
Preston I listened to that episode.
Yeah, it was so good.
I know.
He was like, yeah, I feel like we did too much, maybe a couple things, but then they're like, but what did we do that was outside of what God asked us to do? They couldn't really like hear they couldn't figure out what they did that wasn't obedient. And then Jackie was like, oh, so we must need to learn how to rest better than we did last year.
Yeah.
And that really struck me. And I like brought that into like the girl that works with me at River House Global. And I was like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I did anything out of what the Lord asked me to do last year. So now it's like my part in this is learning to rest. So I'm ready to do what he's asking of me.
Yeah.
And that
Your
really
bullseye.
helped me.
Yes.
Because it took away the like, oh my gosh, I'm being like so like wrung through this right now. Like the Lord's really
being
making me
attacked,
crazy,
and
you know? And it's like, well, I should probably like figure out some things in my schedule and rest better.
Well, and it's interesting how rest changes in every season. What was restful for you 2 years ago is not restful for you now.
Totally.
And like learning how to adjust with the rhythms of God, of just like, okay, and like, you're totally right. I think so many people burn out and so many people don't fulfill God dreams because they don't know how to rest.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And
it's like, it's absolute secret sauce to longevity and endurance.
Totally.
Like you just read John Mark Comer, all those things, and you're like so convicted.
Yeah.
Like yesterday,
so
I was having dinner with my cousin in town, and she was like, I was like, what's the Lord like talking to you about? Like, what's happening? And she was like, well, this morning I read that it's a spiritual discipline to drive at the speed limit. And I was like, I know exactly who said that. And
John Mark.
Oh, shoot.
I think about that all the time. Like the 2 lanes where you're like, I want to get in that one because it's shorter. I will always be like, I have to stay in this one because John Mark Comer told me to stay in this one. Or the grocery line.
Like,
the longer one.
I know. And Jesus would just wait.
Oh, he'd be chatting with everyone in line.
100%.
Praying,
yeah. So he would like, no one would be unseen. And I'm over here like, 4th gear.
I'm like so mad in self-checkout because I can't be faster. It's literally me like trying to get through self-checkout.
And I just think that's like the perfect picture for like a life with God.
Yeah.
And just like we are sprinting through these beautiful fun seasons and different beautiful dreams. And it's like, for what? So you can get there faster?
Right.
I mean, what the heck? The whole point is proximity to Jesus each step of the way. So like, it doesn't really matter if we're there or over here. It's with Jesus that matters.
And you would know this too, because I know we've talked about it, but everyone thinks the like stages and the lights and the success are like the best. And obviously it's like beautiful. I'm so happy. But the moments where you're like, I can't get through this day without you, Jesus, because I'm absolutely devastated and heartbroken. You don't understand it till you've been through it. But once you've been through it, like you crave that nearness in a way that doesn't really compare, for me at least, to the joys are so fun. They're so fun. And the like lives and salvations and people knowing Jesus and being free, like nothing compares.
Yeah.
But the nearness for me personally to Jesus, when I'm like, so what should I even think about today? Because I don't even know how to think right now.
Yeah.
That dependence is like the fullness of life. Like that is everything.
Yes.
And so, wishing away like a really big, crazy season doesn't always mean that you're going to get to a more dependent place. It might just be another big, crazy season.
Exactly.
Like you have to find that reset, that rest.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I said this a couple weeks ago, but like obedience begets dependence. Yeah. And I think when you're able to really like we sing all these songs, I want to lean back into the Father's love, and we like, what does that look like in the day to day, in the Sunday through Saturday, in the arguments with a spouse, in the confrontation with a coworker, and when there's rubbing, what does it look like to actually like depend on the Lord in that moment? Yeah. And how do you like work through? I guess I'm getting into a whole other episode because that's conflict within ministry we should do.
We should.
But what would you say? What's it like to pour your whole self into one calling while another lingers quietly in the background?
Ooh.
I feel like I kind of asked that with a peripheral question, but.
I mean, I was going to say, it's kind of this like knowing that there's something that we were like made for, it feels like. Like I could tell you what my like dream come true could be, and you would be like, what? Literally, how are you planning on getting there? No idea. But that's like the dream that's kind of like just out there big, maybe someday. Like, could you imagine if that happened? And then it's like every day the Lord is like prompting new vision, prompting new small dreams for work, like. And I think that's another thing too. Like currently I lead an organization that wasn't my own vision. It wasn't my vision with the Lord.
Right.
It's something that I got to like step in and help with.
Yeah.
And it's still not something that I think will become like something I pour my DNA into, like my personal like identity.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I don't get to serve like a beautiful God-given vision that has been
that
paved
it's
before
fulfilling
me.
a dream within your heart, even though it doesn't fully reflect.
Totally. Yeah. Will it be birth for me? It wasn't.
Right.
So I long for that someday.
Right.
But
and I think that there's so many, I have used this analogy a lot, but I think there's the concept of adoption is so relevant for this conversation of dreams, because more than most times, you're not going to be the one that cares for the dream that God gave you. Yeah. It's more common for you to entrust it to somebody else and just say, okay. And so learning how to birth something and then trust somebody else to raise it up is like unbearable. It's so hard, but it is like the fruit of trust there is like, oh my gosh, it is like, oh yeah. Again, that's a whole conversation.
No, it's really good.
Well, in a world where impact often looks like speed and scale, how do you know when a small, quieter dream is the one God is whispering you to pursue?
When I was standing in the brickyards in Pakistan last year, talking to people who had been enslaved for decades, I realized a dream that I'd never had before, which was standing in a brickyard with people who had been enslaved for decades, because there's something about being exactly where the Lord has asked us to be. That list again, that list of visiting those in prison, feeding the hungry. Like I was in prison in Bolivia I've been a couple times the last 6 months. And there's something about being within that list that is like, oh, I think this is actually exactly what I was made to do.
That's
and I would prefer to be here, because if Jesus was here, this is where he would be. There's no question about that, because that's what he showed us about his life. And then that's what he asked us to do. So being in that, which is very not fast, it's very slow. It's very limited. There's language barriers. There's no form of like effectiveness or efficiency. There's no form of checking off the list. It's like hugging a mom of 5 daughters who are probably being mistreated, or definitely are being mistreated, and then her like weeping in your arms and you like weeping on her. It's like, this is a pace that I would rather live every day of my life.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that until I was there doing it.
I love that.
And to me, I'm like, if it all ended today, it would be worth it. It would be so worth it.
Yeah.
And you know, on your birthday, when you're like reflecting on your whole life,
like super emo.
Like, oh yeah, always. Someone asked me a question of like, what have you learned about God? And I was like, I don't need anything else from anyone.
Yeah.
And I never knew that. Like, I never knew that until this year. Like, my nearness to him is the only thing that I want. Mm-hmm. All else is second, like all else. And that is the most freeing place I've been. Yeah. Is like, he's my dream. The impact, he's the one that makes impact impactful. He's the one that makes anything significant.
Yeah.
He's the one that opens hearts in a way that no human can. He can whisper one word to me that changes everything about what I think about myself.
Yeah.
That someone has told me for 10 years and it has never hit. Like, there's power in his eyes. Yeah. There's power in his like whisper, in his breath. That is nothing that I can do on my own. Mm-hmm. So to be next to him is like, that's all I want.
Yeah.
Everything else is like, I can't believe you would let me be a part of this with you.
Yeah. What's the word?
I think it's like Danika. It's so bad. It's probably some like really awesome.
Someone's
like,
gonna comment and be like, "Wow, you're actually the worst."
Like
we need to
Testament.
find. Yeah, someone can.
Oh, it's so
someone
good.
Can
it's
correct
so good.
that.
Yeah, they will.
Well, it's true. Like I think that is again, it's that DNA of gratitude of just like, as long as I am under the shadow of your wing, I'm in the dream.
Yeah.
And like you said, your eyes are open and you're like, wait, oh my gosh, this is my dream. And you'll find instead of having this perspective of just like, oh, God's holding out on me and okay, I'm just killing time, so I'll go and do this. Or it's like all of a sudden there's so much purpose. There's a richness of purpose in how you're living your everyday.
Yeah.
Because you're awake to his spirit.
Yeah.
Like, and it does, like you said, it will resurrect dreams that you didn't even know you had.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I'm living the dream just because I'm with Jesus.
Totally.
And it's like, but I want to, before we wrap up, I want to talk about like the grief that comes with dreaming because I think about, I mean, we've talked a lot about this of just the international injustices of the world and like, what do you do with just so many causes that I would give my whole life to willingly take it all, take, and I will literally go do this quietly, God. Like, that's the whole section of my book, how grief is a companion to true hope. And what has grief taught you in the lane of dreaming with him?
I think there's so much comfort in knowing like God has grieved it all first. He's already grieved the injustices, you know? So that's not news to him.
Yeah.
That's his heart. My sister, who I love so much, spent the summer in Greece last year working in a refugee camp and just had some heartbreaking situations and stories and all the things. And really had this like come to Jesus moment because she's like joy bomb,
totally
the craziest, happiest, most amazing person, and has never really resonated with grief or sadness. It hasn't really had a ton of reason to resonate with it. And in this, I think this was a really shocking experience for her because she was like, oh, wow, this hurts. This is really painful. And one of the things she said was like, God's heart is his heartbreak. And that has really like comforted me in what I do because I did a whole series on my podcast of like, how do I live here amongst people that don't know what I've seen and experienced and don't live with the reality of what I know is happening on the other side of the world? How do I have grace and compassion and kindness and understanding for all parties involved? And that phrase, like God's heart is in his heartbreak, is really helpful to me because it's like, it's still his heart. It's still him and it's still his heart. And so it's broken, but at least I'm knowing how it's breaking. I'm knowing what parts of it are broken and how it's broken. And yet we know that the redemption comes from the brokenness. And so I think that's been something I've really clung to. And then as I like disciple people from coming back from trips, which is another part of our organization, I've started to realize it's kind of when you like start telling someone something, you're like, oh, I'm like literally realizing now that I knew more about that topic than I like thought. There was this girl who's like so well intended, but is like, how do people not understand how horrible it is? What I just saw and experienced and all this.
Me when I was 18.
No, literally forever. I was like so mad at people.
Wake up.
Yes. Like no one knows anything.
I know.
Yeah, so naive. And then I just got to share with her, like, I've found it's almost like these are treasures that I have in me now, are like my experiences that I don't want to just give them out to everyone. Like I have to protect the treasure that I have. And it's the faces of really, really hurting people around the world that I have in my head. And it's their extreme, horrible life situations that I know that I don't have to just go out and like throw to anyone. I don't have to tell them like the nitty gritty because these are actual treasures to me because Jesus revealed himself to me in them. And so when he asks me to share one of them, I'm more than happy to because he has purpose in it. But instead of now like stepping up on my like pulpit all the time and being like, here's all the things I learned in this country or this experience or whatever, it's like I have all these treasures in me now. And the Lord will ask me to release them over time. But for now, I'm going to protect them like their actual treasure.
I love that.
And that has really helped me to kind of like, I'm not mad at anyone. They're my treasures. Like I would rather keep them, you know? But if the Lord wants me to like share one with someone, then like, I'm happy to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's beautiful. I think that's like, I think that's a beautiful expression of grief that you're going to like, and you're going to invest your treasure somewhere where you know it will grow and it will like
actually care and like comfort someone.
Yeah.
Not just bring them down with you.
100%. Like this is my pearl. And Oh, that is a whole thing. I had a friend. I don't know if do you ever listen to these podcasts?
Mm-hmm.
You do?
Yeah.
My heart.
Dude, I love your podcast.
My friend Alina was on it, and she's a missionary in Ukraine, and she talks a lot about just learning, like, understanding that, like, that's what's so interesting about the way God makes the bride is, like, certain things are going to break you that don't break me.
Yeah.
And so it's that being alert to his spirit of what is breaking my heart. You know, it's just like amazing, because then when you put this beautiful puzzle piece together of the bride, it's like, oh my gosh, look, they have a heart for, Wall Street, and they have a heart for and all of a sudden you're like, dang, that's a special grafting that you need to pay attention to of what breaks you, because that is the heart of God. That's joy and sorrow are the two main arteries of his heart. And so learning what is making you feel the sorrow of the world, okay, pay attention to that. Yeah. And what's making you feel the joy, okay, pay attention to that. And that's very much, for me, I've learned that's like, okay, that's going to distinguish the dreams that God trusts me with. Totally. What I'm allowing to break my heart, odds are that he's going to plant something there for me to be able to, like, dream with him in. Yeah. It's hard. So last thing, to somebody who's listening, they're like, okay, Danika, I am not running an international organization. I'm over here working my normal job. I'm not doing this, but I'm not bringing impact into the world, but, like, I ache to, and I don't even know, like, the word dreaming with God, I don't even know where to start with that. What would you say to that person?
I would say let him define what dreaming looks like for you, because it looks really different than what the world would tell us dreaming looks like. And I would say, like, go to that first line in Psalms 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing, and try to understand that first before you go out and try to, like, create a dream. Yeah. Because there's going to be so much fruit from your life if you know that you lack nothing in the Lord before you step out and, like, try to accomplish something or create something. Yes. Because he wants you to create and he wants you to accomplish things. He wants us to dream, and he loves impact and loves significance. Yes. You know, all these things we've talked about. Yes. They're all good. They can all be so good. But let him inform that and ask him, like, what are the things about me that you want to highlight to me? Like, what are the things I love to do, or the things that are just easy for me, or the things that I love to create, or how I love to talk, or how I love to spend time with people? Like, let those things inform you, like, more of who you are in him and how he's going to grow something from that and grow something from these things that make us so uniquely ourselves. Yeah. Even you and me, like, we both are on this, like, same wavelength, totally different, like, spheres of ministry in the world and influence and things like that. So yeah, like what you said, it's so specific to us as well. The grafting of each human. I know. And absolutely. It's like being awake to that is so special. Yeah. And, like, I think the other thing I would say to that is, like, get around dreamers. Yes. Like, get around mature, vintage dreamers that have quietly lived with Jesus, that, like, have gone at his cadence. There's something about slow. If you're around a bunch of people that are just, like, overnight, just like there's the slow cadence of Jesus. He does things gently and like, and so I think I mean, I've been so inspired surrounding myself around certain people. Like, I'll leave hanging out with, I mean, you're for sure one of them where I'm just like, oh my, yes, God could do that. And maybe it's not crazy to say that we could all, you know, like, it just, you're removing the impossibility typically when you're surrounded around other dreamers, because all of a sudden you're like, wait, the reality of the kingdom. Wait, I've thought so small, you know? Yep. So, gosh, well, thank you for your time. Of course. Okay, so people, tell us about your podcast and where we can find you. I have a podcast called Whole People. It's on Apple and Spotify. Come on. It's a fun little podcast. It's getting, like, goofier and goofier. I don't know. I kind of love it. Yeah, it's so good. It's so candid vibes. But the whole, like, premise of it is, how does God reveal himself to the world through who he made you to be? So pretty much in line with what we talked about here today. But yeah, that's kind of the core of it. And then we just go from there. It's like everyone has a piece of God that he's, like, revealing to the world. And so just finding that in my friends and family and community. And I love that. It's a fun time. Yeah. I love it. Isn't she wonderful? Danika Langley is an absolute treasure.
treasure of a human. And I just want to thank you so much for, again, taking the time to listen to this conversation with my friend Danika. What a gift. To make sure you go follow her, go see all the beautiful things that she is pouring into, and her podcast that she's doing. It's such a beautiful expression of just what God's established deep in her heart. And so, as always, if you have a second and could leave a comment or rate whatever this podcast on whatever platform you happen to be listening to it on, it does help so much. It helps these conversations get into the ears of more people, which it means a lot. And so thanks again for being here. It means the absolute world. We are winding down season 3 of the Let Me Ask You This podcast, which is so exciting and sad and all the things, but I'm excited to be able to step into a little bit of a rest for the remainder of the summer. And so we have a few more episodes on the deck for this season. And so until then, I will see you next time on the Let Me Ask You This podcast.